geez, that's a good Asia, one. I think Asia's really hard to defend. You know, she needs a crowd around her. I think Caitlin Clark is really hard to guard, you know, when she's healthy. Just her ability. She gave us a lot of handful this year, and, you know, she can shoot it from way out, but she's can pass it, and you know, I think she's been a tough.
Okay, so Sandy Brondello just said something that every coach in the WNBA thinks but won't admit publicly. She's calling Caitlin Clark the hardest player to defend in the entire league. And here's what makes this wild. Sandy's not some random coach hyping up a player. She's been on the receiving end of Caitlin's absolute demolition jobs. We're talking about the coach who watched Caitlin drop her first ever rookie triple-double against her team. The coach who had to sit there while Caitlin put up 25 points in just the first half. And what's crazy is how she describes trying to guard Caitlin, because it reveals something way bigger than just basketball strategy. But hold up, there's something everyone's missing about what Sandy actually said here.
Yeah, go under on her. She's not shooting so well. And like, okay, well then
she's the best game of her life. Yeah.
She's just made 5, you know, shots. Like, what? No, let's change it. That's when I'm like, you know, I always say analytics, you know, it's great information. It gives you knowledge, but then sometimes you got to see what. Yeah, non-shooter. She can't shoot it, and they make 3 in a row. You're like, okay, let's play a little closer now. Like,
did you catch that? Sandy literally said the analytics tell you one thing, but then Caitlin just makes 5 shots in a row, and you're like, okay, forget the data. That's insane. Think about what that means for a second. These are professional coaches with entire analytics departments, spending hours studying shooting percentages and tendencies, building entire defensive schemes around the numbers, and Caitlin just breaks all of it. She forces coaches to throw out their game plans mid-game, because what works on paper gets shredded in reality. But here's the kicker. Sandy mentioned something about going under screens on Caitlin. And this is where it gets really interesting. You know what going under means? It means you're basically daring a player to shoot. You're saying, we don't respect your shot enough to chase you around screens. That's one of the biggest disrespects in basketball. And Sandy's saying even when the analytics suggest doing that to Caitlin, she's like, nah, I'm not falling for that trap.
Non-shooter, she can't shoot it, and they make 3 in a row. You're like, okay, let's play a little closer now. Like, come on, like, you know, that's when you think, yeah, you just got. This is what I see. That's why I say I'm human driven, and
I'm not gonna lie, like, I think that's one of those things with Caitlin. It's like you're never gonna leave Caitlin open. Just like you're never gonna leave Paige open. Like Paige shot the ball terribly from 3 last year on a low volume.
You're never gonna leave Caitlin open. You're never gonna leave Paige open. Listen to how she says that. It's not coaching strategy. That's respect bordering on fear. And check out how she compares Caitlin to Paige Buckers, who shot terribly from 3 last year on low volume. Sandy's saying it doesn't even matter what the stats say. You still guard them like they're about to drop 40 on you. Because once you give them space, once you show them that disrespect, they will make you pay. But what's even more insane is looking at what teams actually do when they play against Caitlin. The sacrifices they make. The players they completely take out of their offensive system just to slow her down. And we've got receipts.
Teams guarded Caitlin. Like, again, Nate Tibbetts. What Nate Tibbetts has sacrificed Kalia Copper. Like, he sacrificed Kalia Copper to guard Caitlin, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Caitlin was a rebound off a triple-double. I think she had, was it like 15, 13, and 9? She was a rebound off a triple-double.
Okay, this is wild. Nate Tibbetts, a championship-level coach, sacrificed Kalia Copper to guard Caitlin. Let that sink in for a second. Kalia Copper is an offensive weapon. She's someone you want putting up shots, creating plays, being aggressive. And Tibbetts basically said, your job tonight is to chase Caitlin around and forget about scoring. And you know what? It wasn't enough. Caitlin still almost got a triple-double with 15 points, 13 assists, and 9 rebounds. She was 1 board away, 1 single rebound away from a triple-double while being guarded by one of the best defensive players in the league. That's the definition of unstoppable. But here's what nobody's talking about. Why are coaches making these insane sacrifices? What is it about Caitlin's game that forces them to completely alter their entire team strategy?
Like, Carl Smesco picked her up full court in preseason. Carl Smesco just said, Ryan, you can score 0 points. We actually don't care. You can score 0. We don't care. As long as you guard Caitlin, you're good. You're good. Like, I know there was a game where where Ryan killed Fever while guarding Caitlin. But, like, we've seen it with Cheryl Reeve.
So here's what's actually happening. And once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Every single coach who faces Caitlin has to make a choice. Do you guard her like a normal player and risk her dropping 30 with 15, or do you dedicate your best defender, sacrifice your offensive flow, and hope you can just contain her to only a near triple-double? It's basically choosing between getting destroyed or getting beat. And the crazy part is how this reveals what coaches really think versus what they say publicly. Because publicly, you'll hear analysts talk about Caitlin's turnovers, her shooting percentages, her defensive weaknesses. But privately, when coaches are drawing up game plans, they're treating her like she's the most dangerous player on the court. Every single time. Let me show you exactly how far this goes.
Her in the second half was as bad as I've ever seen Caitlin play. She literally, like, what's her name? Becky Hammond literally gave Aaliyah Boston open layups for an entire half. She gave Aaliyah Boston open layups in the entire half, and then she switched everything in the second half.
Did you hear that? Carl Smasko told Ryan. Straight up told her, "You can score 0 points, we don't care. Just guard Caitlin." That is absolutely insane. Imagine being a professional basketball player, and your coach tells you your entire value that night is stopping one person. Not scoring, not rebounding, not playmaking, just shadow this one player and make her life miserable. That's the level of threat Caitlin represents. But check this out. There was actually a game where Ryan killed the Fever while guarding Caitlin. She played incredible defense and scored, so it's not like this strategy doesn't work sometimes. But here's the thing coaches understand that fans don't always see. It's not about whether Caitlin scores 30 or 15. It's about whether she controls the game. And that's a completely different calculation.
And most of the time when they talk about guarding Caitlin, it's the stuff that her own coach doesn't want her to do. Like, they'll talk about how she can see all these passes. They'll talk about how basically she's almost this like maverick type talent. And then we always say it's like, how do you guard Caitlin Clark? You get the ball out of her hands. Caitlin Clark's own coach, yeah, we don't want the ball in her hands. We actually don't want the ball in her hands. We want her playing off the ball. Other teams' coaches, how do you want to guard Caitlin? We want her to play off the ball. We want the ball out of her hands. Caitlin's coach, we don't want the ball in her hands. Like, it's one of those things where it's like all of the
See, here's what separates great players from transcendent ones. Great players beat you with their scoring. Transcendent players beat you even when they're not scoring. And Caitlin's in that second category. When teams focus everything on stopping her shot, she just becomes a playmaker and racks up 13 assists. When they try to stop her passing, she'll drop 25.5. It's pick your poison, and both options are lethal. And what's crazy is we can actually track this through specific games where coaches tried different strategies. Like, there's this one game against Vegas that perfectly illustrates the impossible puzzle Caitlin creates for opposing coaches. Becky Hammond, who's one of the best tactical minds in basketball, literally changed her entire defensive scheme at halftime. And what happened shows you exactly why Sandy Brondello said what she said.
Kayla McBride, the time when they beat the Fever in when the Fever beat them in Caitlin's rookie year, Kayla McBride literally did not shoot a jump shot until the fourth quarter. Like, literally didn't shoot a jump shot till the fourth quarter.
Okay, so Becky Hammond gave A'ja Wilson, the best player in the WNBA, open layups for an entire half. Just gave them to her, free points. You know why? Because she was so focused on stopping Caitlin that she basically said, A'ja, go ahead and score. We're not helping off Caitlin. That's the most disrespectful defensive strategy you can run against a player of A'ja's caliber. And Becky did it anyway because the math made sense. Let Caitlin beat you, or let everyone else beat you. She chose everyone else, and it worked in the second half when she switched everything and Stephanie White couldn't adjust. But here's the thing that should terrify the rest of the WNBA. Caitlin's coach wasn't good enough to counter that adjustment. Imagine what happens when Caitlin gets a coach who actually knows how to maximize her. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because there's this massive disconnect between how opposing coaches view Caitlin and how her own coach uses her. Every rival coach is out here saying she's impossible to guard, she can shoot from anywhere, her passing is elite, we have to dedicate multiple defenders to her. Meanwhile, her own offensive system doesn't even prioritize getting the ball in her hands. It's like watching someone have a Ferrari and only drive it in second gear. And you can see the frustration in how this person talks about Stephanie White. They're not saying she's a bad coach. They're saying she's the wrong coach for Caitlin specifically, because the skills that make Caitlin unstoppable are the exact skills that Stephanie's system doesn't emphasize. Let me break down exactly what opposing coaches see that Caitlin's own coach apparently does. All of the teams that she's played against do not want the ball in her hands, but her own coach does. That's the sentence that should make every Fever fan's blood boil. Think about what that means. Cheryl Reeve, Becky Hammon, Sandy Brondello, Nate Tibbetts. Every elite coach in the WNBA is game planning specifically to keep the ball out of Caitlin's hands. They're running full court pressure. They're trapping. They're switching everything. Not because Caitlin turns it over. She only had 3 turnovers from full court pressure all season. But because they know if she brings it up and initiates the offense, she's going to pick apart their defense. Yet Stephanie White runs offensive sets that take the ball out of Caitlin's hands. Voluntarily, it's like the other team's defense is doing your coach's job for them. And here's the most frustrating part. We have proof of what happens when teams actually try to stop Caitlin the right way. Kayla McBride didn't shoot a jump shot until the 4th quarter. An entire game. One of the best scorers on Minnesota, completely taken out of her offensive rhythm. Because Cheryl Reeve told her your job is Caitlin Clark and nothing else matters. That's 3 different elite coaches. Carl Smasko, Nate Tibbetts, Cheryl Reeve, who all made the same calculation. Take one of your best players, neutralize their offensive game, and dedicate them entirely to slowing down Caitlin. And you know what's crazy? Even with all that sacrifice, Caitlin still put up near triple doubles, still controlled games, still made her teammates better. So seriously imagine what she could do with a coach who actually built an offense around maximizing those abilities instead of minimizing them. This is the part that should have everyone paying attention. Because we're watching something really rare in professional sports. We're watching a player who's so good that she's exposing the limitations of coaching strategy itself. Sandy Brondello literally said the analytics tell you one thing, but then you watch Caitlin play and you're like, nope, throw that out. That's a coach admitting that traditional basketball wisdom doesn't apply. And it's not just Sandy. Every coach who's faced Caitlin has had to wrestle with this same problem. Do you trust your preparation, your data, your systems, or do you trust your eyes and adjust on the fly? Because Caitlin breaks the normal rules. She shoots from ranges that should be bad shots but aren't. She makes passes that should be turnovers but somehow thread through. She controls games without dominating the ball. And here's what makes this even more significant. When you look at the history of basketball, the players who force coaches to change their entire philosophy are the ones who revolutionize the game. Steph Curry made teams rethink three-point defense. LeBron made teams rethink positionless basketball, and Caitlin's doing the same thing in the WNBA right now. She's forcing coaches to choose between their systems and their survival, and most of them are choosing survival. They're full-court pressing, not because it creates turnovers. It doesn't. Remember, only 3 all season. But because it keeps the ball out of her hands for an extra few seconds. They're switching everything not because it's good defense, but because it prevents Caitlin from getting into her rhythm. They're sacrificing offensive players to become defensive specialists for one game. These are desperate measures. And desperate measures reveal true value. When a coach is willing to completely alter their team's identity just to slow down one player, that tells you everything about how dangerous that player really is. But here's where this gets really fascinating from a psychology perspective. There's this concept in basketball called gravity. It's how much defensive attention a player pulls just by being on the court. Steph Curry has insane gravity because defenders have to chase him around screens 30 feet from the basket. Giannis has gravity because you have to collapse on his drives. Caitlin has a different kind of gravity. She has decision-making gravity. Coaches aren't just worried about where she is on the court. They're worried about what she's going to do with the ball. Is she going to shoot from the logo? Is she going to hit a cutter with a no-look pass? Is she going to break down the defense and create an open 3 for a teammate? That uncertainty, that unpredictability, that's what creates the impossible defensive puzzle. And you can see it in how coaches talk about her. Sandy didn't say she's a great shooter or she's a great passer. She said she's really hard to defend. That's different. That's about the totality of the threat. And this is why the Stephanie White situation is so frustrating to watch if you understand what's actually happening. You've got every opposing coach in the league saying we have to do everything possible to limit Caitlin's impact, while Caitlin's own coach is running offensive sets that do that job for them. It's like watching a poker game where everyone at the table knows you have a royal flush except you. The Fever have the most dangerous offensive weapon in the WNBA. A player who forces all-star level defenders to abandon their offensive games just to slow her down. And they're using her like she's just another good player. Not the centerpiece. Not the system. Just a piece of the system. And you can see the results. In games where Caitlin gets to control the offense, where the ball is in her hands, where she's making decisions, the Fever are incredibly dangerous. In games where she's playing off-ball, running around screens, spotting up in corners, they're just average. It's that simple and that frustrating. So here's what this all comes down to, and why Sandy Brondello's comments matter so much. When a rival coach, someone whose job literally depends on beating you, comes out and says you're the hardest player to defend, that's not analysis. That's respect earned through battle scars. Sandy's watched Caitlin torch her team multiple times. She's tried different defensive schemes. She's adjusted at halftime. She's probably spent hours in film sessions trying to crack the code. And her conclusion is basically, yeah, good luck with that. That's the basketball equivalent of a general saying, I don't know how to beat this army. And she's not alone. Carl Smasko, Nate Tibbetts, Cheryl Reeve, Becky Hammon, every elite coach in the WNBA has come to the same conclusion. You can slow Caitlin down if you're willing to sacrifice everything else, but you can't stop her. And the question everyone should be asking is, what happens when Caitlin finally gets a coach who understands how to weaponize what makes her unstoppable? Because right now she's doing all of this while playing with one hand tied behind her back. And the scary part, she's still one of the most dominant players in the league.